Hello and welcome to a gate overview. Today we are exploring gate 22. This is the next sun's transit. This is the gate, it's a great gate of grace, the gate of openness. As you can see from the graphic here, it is in the solar plexus. It is the solar plexus being that little brown triangle on the right-hand side of the body graph. And gate 22 is it's just after 9 o'clock, between sort of 9 and 10 o'clock if you were looking at a clock. And it is looking up the channel towards the throat center, and it's harmonic, which is gate 12. Together they form the channel of openness, which is the only social channel in the individual circuit. And the polarity or the opposition in the wheel, as you can see, is that green streak going out to just past 3 o'clock. And that is the 47th gate, which is an Ajna gate up there, the second center down, the green triangle. And it's the gate of realizing, and it is a collective abstract gate. So let's have a look at this one. This is the individual gift for public access in order to empower others with individual emotion. It's the grace in which the spirit of the knower is released, operates in a wave, and it can have great impact. The potential in gate 22 is to realize the spirit. And this realization becomes the possibility to share that spirit with others. The role of the individual is incomplete without social skills. There is on the mental plane, if we look at the 43rd gate, that's the conceptual capacity to communicate insights to others. But the task is made more difficult because of the strangeness of the channel of the 4323. It is this channel of openness down here between the 22 and the 12, which provides the individual with the gift for public access. The possibility of this gate is to empower others with the individual emotion. It is the quality of the emotional spirit which will condition how receptive the collective will be to the individual awareness. The knowing process requires a certain amount of social interaction to disseminate its individuality towards the goal of mutation. The headline above the lines in the Ravi Ching say, a quality of behaviour best suited to handling mundane and trivial situations. I got mutation on the brain. A quality of behaviour best suited to handling mundane and trivial situations. But what is that quality of behaviour? The 22nd gate is a very unusual gate. Being in the solar plexus means it's an emotional gate, and it represents the way in which we hear abstractly. It is the gate of the left ear. The sense of hearing is associated with the awareness gates of the knowing circuit. All individuality is acoustic in nature. We have the right ear, the existential ear, through the 57th gate in the splenic center. The inner ear is that inner voice of the individual through the 43rd gate in the Ajna, and the left ear here, the 22nd gate, through the gate of grace in the solar plexus. What you hear with your left ear, you hear in a wave. If you listen to the telephone with your left ear, you will only hear the good or the bad or the hope of the pain or the pain in the wave as it comes through. The rest will come later. It kind of filters its way down. There is a real difference between the way in which we hear abstractly and the way in which we hear logically. The right ear is a splenic gate, and the hearing is spontaneous. When you hear with the right ear, whatever you're listening to, you're going to take it in its complete essence in that moment. But the 22nd gate, it's different. The 22nd gate, as a hearing mechanism, only hears certain things in the now, and the rest becomes available over time. So if you hold your phone to your left ear, you don't really hear anything that's being said to you in the moment. It's only later that you realize that certain things were said, things that you weren't aware of. right then. It's like when you go to see a movie and that it's sort of bits of it drop back into your awareness over the course of the hours after you've seen it. But necessarily in that moment, if you're sitting, it depends a little bit which way you're sitting. I've done that and it can be quite fun. If you go into something intentionally to maybe even just sort of blocking your right ear off and just playing with, oh, that's interesting, because I really didn't hear that the first time around. When you go back to it the second time. Anyway, it's an abstract process that's related to the emotional system, of course, and to the wave of the emotional system. The 22nd gate has the capacity to be open to the articulation of the other. It's harmonic gate, the gate at the other end of the channel. It's the 12th gate, and that is the gate of articulation. So it can be open, but it doesn't necessarily hear everything in the now. So it's one of the best ways in which we can sort of come to understand the emotional system and the frequency of the wave. It's all about our ability to be able to, sample information, to be able to come to a clear, oh goodness, I'm not speaking today. It's going to be one of those reports to be able to come to a clear conclusion based on a collection of samples over time, because there's no truth in the now when you've got the emotional system involved. When we're exploring the 22nd gate, we always have to keep in mind that this is an emotional process and that the openness of the 22nd gate is a process that is cyclical. Even though that's a quality we associate with the collective sensing circuit, which is where the earth is, of course, that's the grounding to this 22nd gate. But this is the cyclical quality that can be found within the wave, the hope and the pain and the movement of the wave as it never stops going. And I know the individual wave is like slightly different, but even that is in its way. We all have everything. What to say? It is what it is. So the 22nd gate can be very closed off to its hearing. It's a bit like you could have a radio running in the background and you don't really hear it. You're not really listening to it. You don't, you can sort of block it off almost. And this is something that the 22 can do. You get that kind of glazed look in the eye. You can see, they've checked out for a little bit there. But then the mood, because it's always about being in the mood when you're in individuality, it moves. It has its cycles. It has its waves. And anyone who carries the 22nd gate, especially in a defined emotional system, they're constantly going through that process in which over time they can learn to truly grasp what it is that they've heard. There's something about the open emotional system. There's a great deal of avoidance in the strategy of the open emotional system. And the 22nd gate that's opening, oh goodness. I could just stop this and try again tomorrow. The 22nd gate that is operating out of an open emotional system, it often refuses to hear anything, but to participate behaviorally in the action. In other words, they appear to be listening, they appear to be hearing in order to maintain a social presence, but in fact, they're being very deaf and they won't remember a thing about it afterwards. And this can be a dilemma of the 22 in an open solar plex. So the 22nd gate is the gate of attentiveness, but it's the gate of attentiveness that just operates best over time. And that's why this stream of emoting in the individual process here, it's rooted in romance. We saw that through the 39 and its teasing, and we saw in the 55 with its fickleness, that there is this sort of building of passion that works in the individual process that cannot operate if there is an early consummation. Things peak too quickly. But in order for individuality to achieve true romance, there has to be a wave building passion. And the passion is based on what you don't get, not what you do get. The individual process is, of course, inherently melancholic. We know this. We've come across this keynote many, many times. It means that all aspects of individuality operate in a chemistry between sadness, which is a creative environment, and happiness, which is an external productive environment. So here you have a gate that is both individual and melancholic and emotional, all at the same time. And this is a gate that has to create the friendship field that is essential for an individual to be able to confront either the tribe or the collective as a stranger and to mutate them. There's no way that the individual can have impact on society when it's on the terms of society. The impact of the individual cannot be controlled by a timetable. The power of the individual to mutate is inherently dependent on where they are in their melancholic cycle and where they are in their emotional field. The emotional individual can find harmony in the sad and in the down, knowing that this is a time to be creative. This is a time to be involved in their own process without influence, without somebody there trying to bring them up and make them happy, but just to be allowed to be creative. And then in that moment, when the mood shifts and the wave shifts, that's the time to go out physically into the world. The happy emotional condition on the outside is the grace. And it allows the freak, the individual, to have the emotional field that permits openness for the collective and for the tribe. They're taken in by it. They're taken into the romance. The channel of openness, the design of a social or an antisocial being. The gate of grace that can also be the gate of disgrace. It can be both, depending on the nature of the wave. This channel is deeply mutative. It is only out of this channel that mutation can actually spread, and it gives the channel an unusual quality. All mutation moves out into the general population through the 2212. The 12th gate has already been responsible for the mutation in our larynx, which allowed us to articulate through language. The 55th gate will be the mutation that allows of the nature of our spirit to come out. And the pressure is on the 22 to recognize when to be socially open to release the mutation. This is the great gift of the 22, to know exactly when to release the mutation. And if it doesn't, there's a disgrace, because it won't work. Timing is in the nature of the moods. The 22nd gate, the gate of openness, the possibility to provoke social openness or not through the nature of the 39 that teases the 55. They can be deeply antisocial in the same way that the 55 can not only show the highest level of emotion, but it can be icy cold in not releasing any emotion at all. It can be the cup half full or the cup half empty. The 22nd gate has the special capability. It is not the 12th gate or the 55 with its magic and mutation. It always has to take a back seat to the power of these two gates, because the individual is always at risk in the larger society. The nature of the 22nd gate in romance, when we look at it in the sexual context, is the power to be attentive. This is its gift, to be open to listening. Listening is so important to romance, the capacity to hear each other out, and in that, to know the right timing for the next move. The 22nd gate carries with it the power to empower attentiveness in others, and this also is its grace. When the 22nd gate is with others, it empowers them to be attentive. It empowers them to listen. This is important because in doing that, it has to wait to let them speak before it gets its chance to speak. The 12 always, not the 12, sorry, the 22, it always just takes that step back. If you watch a 22 who's driving, they will often wait to let other traffic go past. They won't push themselves out into the stream of traffic. It's a small thing, but if you've got the 22, I'd love to know what you say about that, because there's something I read that Ra wrote. But it's important, really, that the 22 waits its chance to speak by waiting for someone else to finish. If a really, I don't, what would be the word? It's just being attentive to the timing of it, I guess, isn't it? It is designed to be second in that sense. And then it can bring out its response through its wave. The moment that the 22nd gate tries to be the gunslinger instead of the polite one, it fails. Ra said that the moment the 22 pushes its way into traffic, that's when it has an accident. So the gounding, oh Lord. Okay, not much more to go now. I can go and fix my mouth. The grounding for this is the sun's transit through, oh Lordy, even that's wrong, isn't it? The grounding for the sun's transit through 22, that's what I'm trying to say, is gate 47. This is where we find the earth during this transit. Gate 47 is the gate of oppression. It's the gate of realizing. It's a collective abstract gate. It is the gate that makes sense out of the confusion going on in the 64th gate. It's kind of that gate of the aha. And we've already seen there are some elements of the 22nd gate that are very abstract in nature, particularly when it comes to its hearing. But both gates are in awareness centers, and so they have either anxiety or nervousness associated with them. They're both associated with the senses as well. There is the images that come through on the 47, whereas the 22nd, as we've heard, is very much about sound and hearing. So how are these gates going to play together? It's interesting to see that as we explore these lines over the coming days. And I hope you will join me for that. I will relearn how to speak before I do another report. And I will be back with the first line a little bit later on. Thank you very much for joining me for this overview for Gate 22. As always, love yourself and go gently.